Hello, kia ora, g'day, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only weather forecast for the next several days ahead, recorded on Wednesday the 19th of November. And we've finally got a named tropical cyclone. Tropical Cyclone FINA has formed just to the north of Darwin. We've got extra maps and some detail about that. But there are other things going on around Australia. Despite the first tropical cyclone of the season forming, the other two main areas to notice, the low pressure zone, quite a large one around Western Australia, that's producing showers, thunderstorms, and potentially some severe thunderstorms over the next couple of days. And we've also got a colder change, once again, affecting the southeast corner. You can see these speckled clouds on the satellite map, south of Adelaide, southwest of Tasmania, and those are a sign of the colder southwesterly change that is blowing through in that area. But drier skies, certainly around New South Wales and a large part of Queensland, although a couple of isolated showers here and there, most of those up around the far north of Queensland. Here's a closer view of Tropical Cyclone FINA, named by the Bureau of Meteorology. And it's currently Category 1, it's likely to get to Category 2. So the green that you see in the southern part of it, that is the rain radar network in Australia detecting the rain. Doesn't detect the rain further away from Australia. But you look at this cloud in the middle here, where you see the white and the black sort of exploding out there, a lot of thunderstorms with it. Those are the clouds that are going right up into the atmosphere. So this storm is growing. It's going to get larger over the next couple of days. And at the moment, really north of Darwin, driving in some rain on the northern coastline there. Here is the wind map for it later today. So again, most of the worst weather is offshore for now. This storm is going to sit north of Australia for a couple of days, and it's likely to come in this weekend. We've been talking about the various computer models. I've got that at the end of this forecast for you. And that shows kind of a bit more alignment than we've seen in previous updates this week. So that gives me more confidence, and good to see the Bureau of Meteorology finally naming that storm. So here is the big picture, talking about the different parts around Australia. You can see the southerly flow coming in here. South Australia's got it. Victoria, although a bit more of a westerly for Victoria, and Tasmania also has that westerly before more of that southerly airflow comes on in. And that is also coming into parts of Western Australia along the southern coastline. Again, it's more of a southeasterly or an easterly rather than a southerly directly. But that is going to help lower temperatures just around the southern coastline, while just north of it, the low feeding in that northerly airflow, and pretty quiet for those of you around New South Wales. A bit of a westerly breeze, that's going to help lift up some of the temperatures here and there. Although if you're right on the coastline, you actually might have a northeasterly breeze. So we may see a few clouds building up between those different wind directions. Here is the tracking from the Bureau of Meteorology. So Category 1, that's this morning when we recorded this. It is expected to be Category 2 as we go through today or tonight. So that's quite a quick a building up of the storm. But as you can see, the current thinking is that it's going to stay at Category 2 before it comes in as we go in towards the weekend. And so it's going to be a bit of a tricky path down towards Darwin. The land's going to affect it and start to weaken it. So we've got some thunderstorms coming through over the next few days here and there around Australia. Obviously up here around the storm itself, but perhaps more importantly for today's video anyway, thunderstorms around the Kimberley, but also down here around Perth, where it is possible that you might see some severe thunderstorms bubbling up. A couple of thunderstorms around Queensland, although not very widespread, and maybe an isolated one or two around New South Wales, otherwise quite dry there. As we go through into Thursday afternoon, tomorrow, the thunderstorm risk eases around Western Australia, but now it increases around Queensland and New South Wales. So these will bubble up during the day and going into the evening, and there is a chance that we might see a severe thunderstorm or two in there. So do keep up to date with the Bureau of Meteorology tracking that weather tomorrow, and might also affect places like Canberra around the ACT. Some of those thunderstorms may also form. So here is the Thursday map. Those are the thunderstorms that we just mentioned around New South Wales and Queensland. Not necessarily massively widespread or necessarily affecting all the main centres, but we do see some instability in here. Low pressure dominates the entire northern part of the map. The largest low is the one around Western Australia, but obviously the tropical cyclone just up here north of the country, and all the winds are wrapped right around the centre of it. So when you zoom out, it doesn't look very impressive. Whereas this low looks more impressive, but doesn't have anywhere near the amount of wind and rain that northern low has got. But there is some windy weather, low pressure in Western Australia, high pressure south of Western Australia, classic squash zone, easterly winds picking up there, heavy showers, thunderstorms and some rain in that area. But you can see the windy weather, the easterly flow covers the whole southern part of Australia, from Victoria over towards Western Australia. Once you go south of that, there is that polar boundary I was just mentioning. Now Tasmania has a drop in temperatures and that southerly change properly coming in. So that will happen tonight and tomorrow as that moves on through. Here's a closer view of the storm. Like I say, when you zoom in, you can see a bit more energy with it. Not a majorly powerful storm based on this model here. This is from the US, but I got to say, the Australian modelling, the European modelling, all looks fairly similar to this one. So some heavy rain, perhaps a bit more on the western side of that low. Most of the wind and the rain offshore, and certainly for now, it's away from Darwin, but that could change this weekend. Here is Friday. So going into the weekend, the storm's still up here to the north, still offshore, but some of that wet weather now coming in more around the northern coastline. We're still seeing thunderstorms around Queensland in the southeast and around New South Wales in the northeast, but also along the eastern side. In fact, around the Great Dividing Range, most likely to get some of those showers. Also, some of those showers just coming off the sea as the high pressure zone finally sits over Tassie. Bit of a cold start for you in the morning. Pleasant day on the way for the most part. But like I said yesterday, because there's a tiny bit of low pressure sort of in between the high, there might just be a few showers that do bubble up there. But most or more energy is going to be up here around South Australia and Western Australia, as you see that low pressure zone now moving in to South Australia itself. But the windy nor'easters, they could be gusty around New South Wales, gusty around Victoria, and windy conditions here and there around southern parts of Western Australia and the western half of South Australia. A lot of directions in there. All right, let's go into the weekend. So we've got the tropical cyclone at the top end, and we've got high pressure leaving at the bottom end. Bottom end's possibly not the most complimentary thing to say. Well, let's say the more down under part of Australia. That's where we're seeing the high pressure zone moving out into the Tasman Sea. So with low pressure inland, right through central Australia and into Queensland, and high pressure exiting away from the southeast, that's why we're seeing the windy northerlies coming through here and the heat dropping further southwards. That's another change that we notice going into the weekend. So there will be thunderstorms around South Australia and thunderstorms around the northeast corner of New South Wales, southeast corner of Queensland as we go into the weekend. And here is the thunderstorm map for that. A chance of severe thunderstorms popping up around South Australia. And we're also seeing these thunderstorms throughout parts of the northern half of New South Wales. Some of these might form further to the coastline as we go through the day. And then up in the top end and around Katherine, thunderstorms also expanding as that tropical storm, tropical cyclone FINA, drops southwards. So on Sunday, that's the location of it. Some heavy rain around Darwin there. There's the potential for 200 or 300 millimetres of rain as that storm tracks on through. There are a couple of other things going on this map. It's a busy video today. The red tropical boundary dropping right southwards, so you're really going to be feeling the heat in South Australia, right across the Northern Territory, a large portion of Western Australia, but not for all, because that's the polar boundary, not far off the coast from Albany and Margaret River and places like that. So the colder southerly comes in and goes halfway up the coastline there. On the other side, thunderstorms and that tropical boundary trying to pull further into New South Wales. So this is a northerly flow or a northeasterly coming in. There will be showers, thunderstorms, and maybe some severe thunderstorms bubbling up on Sunday around New South Wales. Sorry, Taz, you got the line over you there, but you've got northeasterlies and a few showers, mostly in the northern side of Tasmania on Sunday. By Monday, not a great deal of change there. You've still got mild winds. The polar boundary's off the map for the most part. There's a small part left over here. Southerly winds still coming in around the southwest half, if you like, or southwest third of Western Australia, whereas the top part of it, hot and humid, there is the tropical cyclone. The blue areas that you see inland through the Northern Territory and around Queensland, those are showers and thunderstorms, and we may be seeing some severe thunderstorms in the east as that red tropical boundary drops southwards further, including now Adelaide. So you'll be really feeling the temperatures going up as we kick off next week, even more so on Tuesday here. Showers and thunderstorms around New South Wales and Queensland, the Northern Territory and South Australia. But South Australia has got two different temperature sets or two different airflows in there. You've got the hot, humid stuff in the north and now a southerly coming out of the Southern Ocean for coastal areas. So temperatures are down in the south on Tuesday and a more refreshing change sweeping through to some parts of Victoria and Tasmania. But you go up into New South Wales, hot, humid weather on Tuesday, showers and thunderstorms definitely forming there. So before I go, let's take a quick look at the cyclone. Here is the American modelling for it. Today's placement, timestamps over here in New Zealand time. I couldn't put Australian time on for it, sorry. But you can see the heavy rain that passes through Darwin this weekend. That has the potential, for 200-300 millimetres of rain. The wind side of it may not be too bad. Let's compare that to the European modelling now, and you're going to see very little difference. This one may be just a little more intense as it comes through here to Darwin over the weekend. A chance of strong winds and heavy rain, and that storm, this modelling takes it down into the Kimberley. So there are definitely still some things to be locked in. As far as wind intensity, yeah, we're still not 100% sure about Darwin, but I would be prepared for getting damaging gales as we go into the weekend, certainly as possible. We'll have more information about Tropical Cyclone FINA in our video tomorrow, and please do stay up to date with the Bureau of Meteorology, their cyclone page. Very helpful if you're trying to work out how strong the winds could be and if you're in the area most affected by it. That's all from me for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow, Thursday.